So thank you, Sherry, so much for being on the podcast with me today. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Absolutely.
So could you please tell us about yourself, what you do, and your connection to education?
Oh, if I get talking about my connection to education, that may take the whole podcast. Okay. I grew up on a farm in Tennessee, so that gave me a love of the outdoors and activity. But I also grew up dieting, and I'll get into that story a little bit as we go. I knew from third grade that I wanted to help people live healthy. My mom and I, as far back as I can remember, we talked about, what do you want to be when you grow up? She was good about being a mom who always asked that. So it helped me figure out really young what I wanted to do. As far as what I do now, I'm an author and speaker in wellness. I'm a certified health coach, certified intuitive eating counselor. My master's is in health promotion from Vanderbilt University. And I get to live out my passion, which is to help leaders live their maximum potential, not through the latest fitness fads and all that, but through principles that I definitely want to share with everybody. And the leaders for the next generation, this is where it gets personal to me because it means helping teachers prevent the habit of doing a year's worth of self-care crammed into the summer. Because my mom, who was my high school English teacher, and both my parents were teachers, but my mother was the one I was closest to. And I watched her push herself through the school year in unhealthy ways, following whatever the latest diet craze was. She would exercise some during the year, but mostly she tried to make up for neglect during the summer. Professionally, she had a ton. Oh my goodness, she had a ton of accolades. She was state teacher of the year. She was, she was running. That's actually, we hadn't, when we were talking pre-show, I didn't get to tell you about that. Yeah, she was state teacher of the year. She was first runner-up for National Teacher of the Year, so she got to have lunch with the president at the time and all that. But physically, she was miserable. And she's an amazing woman. She was my first workout partner. I dedicated my book to her. But she could have had success in both areas. And so my heart is for teachers so that teachers can have success professionally and physically in their life. So that's a long answer to your question.
No, you're so right about that because I see a lot of teachers, they want to get to the gym and they want to be healthier. And then, they just, when they come home, they don't have time. They think, well, I can't go and work out at the gym because that takes time to get ready and to get there and, come back.
Or even if they have time, they don't have the energy because
Right.
they've been running around kids for 8 hours. Yeah.
And snacking on candy in between classes to keep our energy up, and then we just crash at the end of the day. So it's definitely something a lot of us can relate to. But then on the flip side, I've also seen a lot on Instagram, especially with some newer teachers. They're into, a lot of different diets and a lot of different, they call them eating plans, aka
Right.
diets.
Right.
And so
That's the modern name for diets. Yes.
exactly. So, it's just something that it's hard to balance and it's hard to know what's right and what's going to be good in the long run. Because like you, I've dieted forever. And I always ended up, going back to where I was. I was always, and I'm really good about being strict. I can follow a diet to the T, but then when I don't get the results, then I start cheating a little bit. I start cheating a little more. And then there I am having gained more weight afterwards and feeling a lot of shame around what I just did. Like, why couldn't I accomplish that? Look at everything else I've accomplished and I can't eat right. So I feel like I feel like a loser.
My heart goes to you because it is so common.
Yeah. So there's a buzzword though that I've been hearing a lot, and I thought, well, this is probably just another fad, and I wanted to get your take on it, and it's called intuitive eating. So what can you tell us about that?
Well, interestingly, with that buzzword, I'm a certified intuitive eating counselor, so I definitely can tell you a lot about it. Intuitive eating, and jump in anytime with questions to clarify anything. Intuitive eating, in essence, is trusting your body to tell you what it wants, when it wants it, and how much it wants. That means you have to redevelop, and I say redevelop, the skill of listening mindfully and responding, because as children, we were all intuitive eaters. We were all born intuitive eaters. And dieting, lifestyles, fast food, just everything around us, our whole environment pulls us away from that. There are several principles to intuitive eating. There's actually about 12 or so. That gets a little complicated for people to wrap their heads around.
Right.
So I've grouped them into 4 letters. And if you want, I'll jump into those and go over those for you. Okay. So anybody who is taking notes, write down. I'm big on homework. I'm sorry. I know y'all are on your summer break, but I'm big on homework. So write down the letters H, W, S, S.
Okay. I just wrote that down.
Okay. The H stands for hunger. How hungry are you physically? And I'll dive into these a little bit more. The W is what you want. The S is slow and savor. And the second S is stopping when you're satisfied. So hunger. Beside hunger, write down the numbers 1 through 10. And that is your hunger scale.
Okay.
5 is neutral. I'll give you a second to do that. But 5 is neutral. That's where you don't have any sensation at all. You don't feel food, but you also don't feel hunger. It's neutral.
Right.
A 4 is, that intermittent, and you may experience this, that intermittent where, I think I'm hungry. And then you get involved in something and, okay, I'm not hungry. But then 30 minutes or an hour later, you start getting hunger and it stays. It's kind of, okay, I can't distract myself from it.
Right.
That is a 3. And that's the sweet spot to start eating. Because if you drop below that, you begin to go, I am famished. I have got to get something, or I'm going to kill somebody. I'm going to scream at one of my kids. I'm going to whatever. The flip of that is 6 and 7, where a 6 is, I'm just beginning to feel the food a little bit. And a 7 is, okay, I'm really feeling the food. The pants are starting to get a little bit tight. And by 8, 9, and 10, that's Thanksgiving dinner where you've pigged out.
So only 7 then is full.
Well, 7 is where you are you really, 6, you're beginning to feel the food.
Right.
Just that first little bit. 7 is, things are getting tight. You're not miserable yet, all that. You're not rolling on the floor miserable. But it's like, okay, I really would be in trouble if I ate anymore.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm just surprised because I thought that would be more like 9 or 10.
Yeah. No, 9 or 10 is kind of like a 1 or 2 is I'm going to kill somebody for food. A 9 or 10 is I never want to see a bite of food again. I'm so miserable.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. W. This one gets tricky in intuitive eating because people really tend to misunderstand this one. Because you say, what do you want? Mm-hmm. Well, the first thing that pops in your mind is, I want to go grab a candy bar, or I want to grab a chocolate cake or whatever. Well, you've got to dig a little bit deeper than that. If you knew you could have anything, anytime, and everything was emotionally the same, which dieting really messes with how we think about food. But if we ask what you really want, it's what do my taste buds want? What texture, what temperature, what taste, and then also how do I want to feel in a couple of hours?
Right.
How do I want to feel tomorrow? What does some research say about this particular food or way of eating? So what you want goes deeper than the whim of the moment.
Okay.
Any questions on that before I go on?
Well, maybe we can dive into the fact that sometimes when we're closer to like a 3, we just kind of want the first thing that we see, if that makes sense, on the hunger scale.
Yep, that makes sense. And that is a great clarification because a 3 is actually where what I call pleasant hunger, it's a balanced meal would sound really good. That's when your veggies and your chicken or your lasagna, or, real food sounds good. When you're talking about, oh gosh, I'm going to grab the first thing I see.
Right.
You've let yourself go too long at that point.
Is that the same for like I have to have a piece of candy? Would that also be a 2 at that point?
If you have been feeling physically hungry for about an hour, and you're starting to get like, I'm having trouble concentrating and I'm a little weak feeling, yeah, you're at a 2.
Okay.
You probably, it would have been good for you to have eaten an hour or so before. Not an hour, maybe a half hour before.
So then is it more what you want versus what you need, or are those interchangeable?
What you want sometimes is going to be something sweet or something salty.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But your body is not going to call for that all the time.
Right.
Your body, when you're listening into your body, sometimes your body is going to say, I've had, like, let's say you've had a salad and chicken for lunch.
Right.
You've not had much carbohydrate in that. So your body may be saying, hey, that was some good protein and some good veggies, but that roll over there, or that piece of cake that's left over from whatever, that looks really good. Well, because you're needing some carb with it.
Right. Okay. Got it.
Okay. Slow and savor. This one can be a challenge for teachers.
Yes.
Because depending on your school system and how it's set up, like 2 of my cousins were inspired by my mother to become teachers. So they are teachers in elementary school. Fortunately for them, they have recently gotten cameras in the cafeteria where things are monitored, and there's lunchroom monitors. So the teachers no longer have to be in there. They can go to the teacher's lounge for lunch.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Some schools don't have that option. I don't know what yours like.
At the elementary school that my daughter went to, the teachers, they monitored while they ate, but then they were able to go when the kids were done eating and they had recess, they were able to go and eat.
Okay. So they were able to have at least the opportunity to eat slow and savor. Some teachers do, some don't. But even if you're having to watch kids during lunchtime and you're not able to fully focus on the food at lunch, breakfast and dinner are times that you can focus on that. But the concept of slow and savor is put the phone down, put the computer down, don't be grading papers.
Right.
Your time with your food, that is your time to nourish your soul and your body. And whether that is 5 minutes or 10 minutes or a full half hour, that's your time to not be mindless and not multitask.
And that's hard for teachers.
Yes, it is.
And parents too.
Yes. Oh, very, very. But just reminding yourself that you're worth it will help with that. And we can talk a little later if you want to about some tips of how to fold that in slowly. But the goal is mindfully focus on the food. Okay. Because the last S, is stopping when you're satisfied, because it is very hard to stop when you hit that 5, when you're neutral, because you don't necessarily want to go to a 7. You want to stop at a 5 or maybe a little over a 5. It's hard to do that if you're grading papers, because you don't notice that, 6 chips ago, I was already full. I was already satisfied 6 chips ago, but you went ahead and finished the bag because it was there and you were grading papers and not paying attention.
Or I grew up in a household because my parents were very poor when they grew up. And so I was supposed to finish everything.
Oh, yeah.
Regardless of my level of satisfaction. There's still some rice on your plate. There are people in the Philippines who don't have any rice. You need to eat that rice. And so all of that, eating slowly. And, I trained myself when my daughter was a toddler. I had to eat and finish before she was done because she was just going to be done and run off. So I call it eating on toddler time.
That's great.
I didn't really break that habit on top of having to finish my plate. So kind of a double whammy there.
One of the things, anytime that you feel that guilt of not finishing your plate, or for any moms out there who are trying to do that with their kids, saran wrap, baby. You can put saran wrap over the plate and put it away. In fact, there's one family that I've worked with that the daughter, because of the school schedule, her lunch schedule, so late by the time but the family had to eat early, she wasn't hungry. But it was still family time. So what they did, and they came up with this idea. I gave them some questions, but they were the ones who came up with the idea of, okay, this is family time, so you have to be at the family table,
Right.
and we dish up your food. But if you are not physically hungry, you do not have to eat it.
That makes sense.
We,
Yeah.
we put saran wrap over it, put it in the fridge, and then when you get hungry in a couple of hours, we can reheat it.
So this sounds a lot like common sense, this whole intuitive eating. I mean, you did mention that this is what we were born with. So how is this different from a diet? I mean, the way that it's kind of packaged and put out there, it sounds like it's like a diet, but it doesn't sound like it at all.
Right. Diet is definitely about external rules, rules that something around something that's really personal. And by that, I mean eating. Eating is personal. It's your personal thing. So external rules around that, it's crossing a boundary. And that raises up this sense of autonomy that says, that is not going to tell me what to do, even if you're the one who put the rules in place on yourself. Intuitive eating is responding to your body like you did as a child. And we do have to relearn that, but it's not an external rule per se.
But some people, they say they want to be healthy, which I think they're saying they want to lose weight. And so that's why they go on like keto or paleo or Mediterranean, and they seem to get pretty good results from that. So why is intuitive eating better when, with those other diets, I'm not eating bad food, but it sounds like with intuitive eating, I'm just going to eat what I want.
Oh, nice way to phrase that. And for any of you who are listening and you're on keto, what I'm about to say, please be angry with me. Do not be angry with your host. All of the three that you mentioned, they're very different. Keto, paleo, Mediterranean, they're very different physically and psychologically. So I'm going to break that down just a little bit.
Okay.
For keto, from a physical standpoint, I question honestly how healthy it really is, because there's so many nutrients that you eliminate, and the research on it long-term is sketchy. I'm not going to get into a ton of keto stuff, but it's extreme and it has a lot of issues. Paleo is not so extreme. You are cutting out some variety, but the registered dietitians that I work with, they're not as worried about nutrient deprivation with paleo. Mediterranean, it's not unbalanced from a physical standpoint in any way. But all three of those are a set of external rules. And a diet of any kind has been shown in the research over and over. It decreases self-esteem. It increases your feelings of failure. You even alluded to that at the beginning, talking about your own stuff. It increases social anxiety. It erodes confidence and it erodes self-trust. And that is all regardless of weight. So somebody who's overweight, normal weight, underweight, doesn't matter. If they're on a diet, those are the psychological triggers that are triggered. Food becomes magical with that. In fact, there's some former dieters that they're initially disappointed once they become intuitive eaters. Because, okay, food's no longer special. It doesn't have this aura around it. Food is just food at that point.
I think a lot of people, including myself, we go on those diets because we feel like we can't trust ourselves. There's a reason why we got to the weight or health condition that we're at, and we feel that we need to cut back and restrict, because that's how we're going to get back to where we were when we were supposedly satisfied with ourselves. But a lot of times we weren't satisfied back then either, which is why we went on the diet in the first place.
That's true.
So, I mean, does this mean that there aren't any forbidden foods or ideal foods with intuitive eating?
Nothing is forbidden and everything is allowed. The question is, what is your body telling you? Let me give you an example with the Mediterranean diet that we just talked about. You may discover as you listen to your body that choosing to eat as though you lived around the Mediterranean Sea, that's what you desire. And it's what your body responds to. But if, like on the Mediterranean diet, you're not supposed to have butter, you're supposed to have extra virgin olive oil. So you go to somebody's house and this friend has made a dessert with butter instead of olive oil. That's not forbidden because there are no rules. So with intuitive eating, you can go, even though you know your body responds best to a certain way, there's no rules, so there's no guilt. And that's one of the big things that's a difference is if it's a rule that's some diet plan, if you break it, now there's guilt. So then it starts this whole cascade of, okay, well, I've cheated, so I might as well go ahead and blow the rest of the day. I'll start again tomorrow. Versus with intuitive eating, there's no rule. You didn't break anything. So, with Mediterranean diet, you're only supposed to have meat a few times a month. But let's say you have meat 5 days in a row because that's what you really, really want.
Right.
And, well, you didn't break anything as an intuitive eater. You just go, oh, well, maybe my body needed some more iron. So, okay, great. And you move on.
Wow. That's definitely a different way of thinking. And, obviously a lot of people go on those diets because they want to lose weight. And I've heard that, and it seems like if you're on intuitive eating, because there aren't any restrictions, that some people gain weight. So I was just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Okay. You are correct. Some people do gain weight. And there's two instances that I see that. One is physical. If someone has been, and I experienced this that I'll go into a little bit if you want, is if somebody's been depriving themselves so much, either because they've been eating super low calorie or super low carb or something like that, their body says, finally, I can eat, and the appetite ramps way up. Whenever I started dieting at 9 and dieted through my 20s, when I went into probably junior high school age, in there, I started backing off a little bit on the dieting, and my body went, I have got to have food. Sherry, if you've got to feed me. So I did, and I gained weight because I had been starving myself. So that's normal. And then the other reason that I find is that psychological backlash to, and it's a little bit trickier because once those rules are down, if somebody's been dieting and dieting and dieting, once those rules are down, their psyche goes, woohoo, I can have everything I want.
Oh,
and yeah, so it's that second letter, that W, where it's not what their body necessarily wants. It's they've had all these rules and now those rules are lifted. So woohoo, let's party. They've deprived themselves. So now they're going to have that. And that's an area that really takes either an intuitive eating counselor or somebody, who can help walk someone through that so that they don't think that they're losing their mind. And the big thing is to reassure them that they won't stay on that stage forever. When you finally eat with permission, with no hidden guilt, that stage will pass. I had a client who she'd been a lifelong dieter like I had been. And she said, Sherry, I really don't grasp the concept that carrots and chocolate can have the same emotional value, but I'm going to trust you. I'm going to trust you that it's really true that carrots and chocolate can have the same pull. So she did all 4 letters, worked through, the HWSS for several weeks. And the first week, honestly, yes, she did gain weight because she was finally allowing herself with no guilt to have cookies. And I don't know how many bags of cookies the poor woman went through. But she just kept trusting that. And here's the key. It's not only trusting yourself with food and trusting that your body will tell you what it needs. It's trusting that your body wants to be at a healthy weight. So when you were basically told to force feed yourself rice, even though when you were no longer hungry, that was going against what your body's wisdom was telling you. The cool thing is after the phase of all the cookie stuff for her, she came to me one day and she said, I'm starting to eat salads because that's what I actually prefer. That if you put salads in front of her and dessert in front of her, it was not, I should have the salad. It was the actual innate desire. And it wasn't even that's healthier for me. It was what she wanted. It's what her taste buds wanted. It's what she craved. And it didn't mean that she didn't occasionally eat something that was higher sugar or whatever, but she's got stale chips in her pantry now and stale cookies in her pantry that like she has to throw them out because she doesn't want them.
So how can we talk to the chronic dieter who the thought of gaining weight is out of the question? That's a non-starter for them. How can we tell them that it's actually beneficial to switch to intuitive eating instead of a restrictive diet where they're seeing results? I mean, they look great, they're thin, they're not happier necessarily because thinness doesn't equate with happiness, but
Right.
they reached that goal, and now we're telling them you should go back to eating intuitively.
A couple of thoughts on that. One is, if someone is just very much still focused on, I have to do something to lose the weight, and I'm not willing to gain. I'm not willing to risk, because there's no guarantee you're going to gain weight.
Right.
But if you've been starving yourself, there is that risk that if you truly listen to your body, it's going to put on some weight. That if you're not ready to make that change, one question to ask yourself is, how many times have I dieted, gained it back, plus some? How many times have I gone to a party and been absolutely miserable because I had to eat perfectly, and then gone home and binged on a bag of whatever because I didn't let myself have it at the party? To go through the reasons that dieting hasn't worked for them long term. Yes, absolutely. You starve yourself, and unless you totally mess up your metabolism like I had done, you're going to lose weight if you're starving yourself or doing something radical. But it's not going to last. And then you had a second part to that question that I've forgotten because I got off talking about this one.
Right. No, but how can we convince them that it's better to eat intuitively?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So once they come to the place that they're at least willing to give it a try, there's a few things they can do. One, they can say, you know what? And this is kind of like whenever somebody is coming off of not just dieting, but anorexia or some type of true eating disorder, not just disordered eating. Sometimes things have to be baby stepped in. Like somebody who is getting over anorexia and getting into intuitive eating, they may not be ready to have a pantry full of whatever their foods have been that have been triggers and fearful foods. They may just be able to say, you know what, I'm going to allow myself to have a cookie, but if I really want it, I'll go to the store and get one and come back and have it.
Right.
So that they're not overwhelmed with all this. So there are ways to baby step in, but even with that, you have to be aware there's a risk of, I might put on a pound or two. And am I okay with that, knowing if I truly give myself permission, that phase will end?
And the fear is also there for me, but one thing that I notice about myself is if there's some kind of an event where it's catered and there's food, I can't help but just like pile my plate up as if I've never eaten good food before. And I eat really well. I eat very healthy. I don't, scrimp on getting good cheese. And if I'm going to eat things that are not the healthiest, I make sure that it's high quality.
Right.
So
which is very smart.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I have to go and get it. I have to spend money on it, or I have to make it myself because I won't just eat Oreos because that doesn't taste good to me anymore. But then I go and I go to a party or a staff event and it's catered, and I swear it's like I've been living in a cave, just eating bugs. And I know that the way that I look at food isn't healthy, especially in that situation. And so it seems like if I were more in tune with intuitive eating, if I could adopt that, then I could control myself and not look like that person. And it's kind of embarrassing, but I can't help it. And I tell myself beforehand, okay, Kim, don't fill up your plate. It's just food. Don't fill up your plate. It's just food.
Oh,
but
gosh.
there I do it.
This is so fun maybe not so fun. It's not fun for you what you're doing. And the memory that I'm having right now as you said that, I remember being at it was at a staff party, and it was a staff potluck party. So it wasn't even catered. It wasn't even like amazing food, but I was in the diet mentality, because what you're describing, Kim, is you still have some diet mentality
Right.
in there. So I'm at this staff party, Christmas party, and I am in the bathroom doing exactly what, I'm glad I'm not the only one who did this. I'm in the bathroom doing what you just said. And that is, I was saying, okay, Sherry, go out there and, you're just going to have the vegetables that you brought. You're not going to overeat. You can do that. I was giving myself a pep talk. And I'm sitting there or standing there in the bathroom going, this is crazy. Everybody else is out there enjoying themselves, and I'm in here obsessed about either what I'm going to eat or what I'm not going to eat. And if I do eat that, how much I'm going to have to work out tomorrow and all of this. Now being able, I can't tell you how incredible the freedom is to go to an event like that and go, well, in fact, last week I went to an event and cheesecake is one of my absolute favorite desserts. Well, they had cheesecake and I had about 3 or 4 bites of it and was totally satisfied, because I knew that if I wanted cheesecake 2 hours later, I could go to the Cheesecake Factory and get myself the most amazing cheesecake in the world, because nothing's off limits. If I really want it, I can have it. I've got, I'm also like cookies, and my neighbors gave me some cookies. They had gone to Japan and bought these cookies and brought them back for me. They've been sitting on my counter for a month now, because I know I can have them when I want them. So
Right.
I don't care. So for you on those catered events, there's a diet mentality still saying that I better eat it now because I don't know when I'm going to allow myself to have this again.
Yes. It's like, what if it's never there again? What if brownies never appear again in my life? Which is so illogical, but it takes over. It's like this compulsion, and I get a little bit of everything, and then I sit down and I'm ashamed. I look at my neighbors. They have a couple things on their plate because they know they can go back. But then in my mind, I'm like, what if they run out? What if I can't get everything that I wanted, that I saw? And I want to be free of that. I don't want to keep doing that, because normally I'm a very logical person. I'm a control freak. I know how to control myself, but that's what my one Achilles heel. I just can't seem to break free. So I'm really eager to hear more, to learn more about intuitive eating.
Well, let's chase that brownies thing if we've got, assuming we've got time.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so you're saying it's illogical, and I agree with you that anytime that I would eat 5 pieces of cheesecake or whatever it was, it's like, it's illogical. I know I can go get it, but anytime that there is still in your brain, I should be having this, I shouldn't be having that, this is good, this is bad. If we put any morality around the food, then we're not fully giving ourselves permission. And so even though we live in a country where you can make brownies anytime that you want to make brownies, you don't know when you're going to allow yourself to do that again.
Oh, yeah. Because of the restriction from dieting.
If, like, the client who was having cookies until she was sick of cookies, and now it's like cookies don't matter at all to her. I'm not saying you need to go bake, 6 dozen brownies and eat them, but you need to allow yourself that anytime you want a brownie, no guilt, no shame, go have a brownie. And that will take all the magic around those brownies away, and you probably will find you don't even want it.
Although the idea of, eating a whole batch so I won't want them anymore, maybe that'll work. That'll be a deterrent. After a while, I'll be sick of brownies. I don't know. No, don't do that. You guys don't listen. Don't listen to me.
No.
So I feel like I'm having a therapy session here. Now, when I find myself eating mindlessly at work, especially as a teacher, sometimes I have to multitask because I'm so busy during that time that I have to reply to this email, or, I have to check my Facebook status. What, did everyone like that post? I know I'm being ridiculous, but you know what I mean.
No,
So
you're not. We all do that.
how can I get past this and be, and what would it look like if I was more intuitive with my eating? Like, if we could be meta here, like, what are some of the thoughts that you could tell yourself to kind of ease away from this kind of mindless eating?
Ooh, ooh. Okay. So I've got some practical things. Let me think meta. I love that word. Um, so what's going through your mind? What are some questions you can ask yourself?
Right.
All right. So when families who are intuitive eaters sit down to eat, one of the things I notice is they talk about the food.
Oh,
So if you are sitting, let's just do you eat at your desk or do you eat at
yeah.
the teacher's
At my
lounge? You
desk.
eat at your desk. Okay.
With some other teachers, though, but I'm still at my desk.
Okay. So if you're with other teachers, you can say, okay, for the first 10 minutes of the meal, we're just going to talk about the food. How amazing this chicken salad is, how amazing this peanut butter and jelly sandwich is, whatever. I have, to give you a quick example with that, I've got a client who she travels with her work, and she was with some people from South America, and they had a business lunch. But the first half hour of this business lunch, all they talked about was the food.
Oh,
They did not
okay.
talk about the business. And then once they were on coffee and dessert, then they started talking about the business. So you can do that with the teachers that you're with is, let's talk about the food for the first 5 or 10 minutes before we start talking about how bratty that kid was and how that parent teacher conference was horrible or whatever.
Right.
If you're eating by yourself, okay, so if you're eating by yourself would be to ask yourself some of the same questions of, what is I really like about this? What's the, I bought this at the store. What seasoning, what spice did they use in this that I want to, translate into one of my own recipes? Make your thoughts about the food, because the more you can savor the food, the more satisfying it's going to be. Another question, maybe not question, but something to be very aware of is when you multitask, research has shown over and over again, you eat at least 10% more calories.
Right. Ugh, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's like, oh, okay. The way I heard somebody describe it once was, how would you feel if you woke up one morning and there had been a cookie monster that during the night stuffed a bunch of cookies into your mouth and you ate them? So you didn't get to experience them, but you woke up 5 pounds heavier because of it. You would be very mad.
Right.
But when you're eating mindlessly, you're doing that to yourself.
So then what can because, I have a double whammy. I'm eating mindlessly and I feel the need to finish my food.
Okay.
So
Okay.
how can I stop myself when I start eating mindlessly so that I don't finish it for the sake of finishing it? Because
Okay.
doesn't it take your body a long time before it actually feels full?
Yeah, it's normally, depending on where you are on that hunger scale, it's normally about 15 minutes to maybe 20 minutes
Okay.
for your stomach and your brain to communicate.
Right. So how can
Okay.
I slow myself down?
All right. So one would be to set a timer for the first 10 minutes of your meal. And during that time, focus. Now, if after that you say, there really is this email I have to get out or I'm going to lose my job, not, I want to check Facebook or I want to do my emails, but I really need to do this. Do the first 10 minutes of your meal focused, and then you can go to multitask if you want, or flip it. And I love this one, and that is always keep in mind half plate. When you get to the halfway point of whatever food is in front of you, pause.
Oh,
Do a check-in. Am I still physically hungry? If I am, great, keep eating. If I'm not, put saran wrap on it, put it away for the next time that you're hungry. And if you are doing that half plate pause, that's when you're going to stop your multitasking. So let's say that you are multitasking while you're eating. Still make yourself stop at that halfway point and check in with your body.
okay. So it's a compromise because knowing that we can't always just stop working,
Right, right.
just to be
Yeah,
intentional.
Right, exactly. And the goal, I mean, it's not something that we're settling for because the goal is to be fully present with the food, but not everybody's ready to start there. And this is a way to step that in. One of the other big things that really can help people is a decision to change the environment. So
Okay.
if you're eating at home and you're used to eating in front of the TV, go to the dining room table. If you're used to eating at your desk in the classroom, do you have windows in your classroom?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. Pull a desk over, or actually, if you and a few other teachers are having your meal together, grab some of the student desks over by a window so that you're looking outside and you're seeing something different. And that can often trigger changes in your eating by changing that environment.
Okay. I'm going to try that because
Cool.
I even though I am talking to them, I'm talking to my colleagues, I'm also maybe checking email, but at
So
no
you're
point,
really doing three things at once,
and I'm
talking to
not
them,
really
checking
paying
email, and
attention.
eating.
Yeah, eating though, I can put food in my mouth without thinking about it, that's just,
Hmm.
you know, it's mindless, and at times I'm like, did that even taste good? I don't even
Right. It's
remember.
that, yeah, it's that cookie monster shoving food in your mouth when you're asleep. Exactly.
Right. And, also at school, and this happens to a lot of us, not as much for me anymore, but I used to just sit there and I had to have chocolate.
Hmm.
And I would text or email colleagues, do you have chocolate? And because, that's just what I felt like I needed. But then I felt a lot of guilt around that. I mean, if I was on intuitive eating, would I just still go with that? Or would I try to convince myself that I didn't really need that?
Actually, you would ask yourself why. Okay, I feel like I'm needing chocolate. Why? Am I needing chocolate because I'm feeling stressed? And if it's stress, then you've got to look at what else can be a solution for that because food never truly solves stress. Am I wanting the chocolate because I'm bored? Or am I wanting the chocolate because my blood sugar's gotten so low that I really need food that's going to fuel me? And chocolate's just a quick hit to do that.
But with intuitive eating, I can ultimately have it though.
Oh, of course.
With just
And
you're in.
you can have it when you're physically hungry. In other words, you're not going to have the chocolate on a whim because you're stressed. You're going to find intuitive eating doesn't mean that you're eating willy-nilly. It means you're honoring your body. And if your body says, I am physically hungry and I need, let's give a scenario where you might eat the chocolate as a quick fix for blood sugar. Okay, I am physically hungry. I'm dropping from a 3 to a 2 really fast, and lunch is another hour away.
Right.
And I have chocolate in my drawer, and that's the only thing available to me. I'm not eating because I'm stressed. I'm not eating, it's my body telling me it needs food. Have the dang chocolate.
Right. But I think a lot of other times we're not in tune with our bodies. We're not in
Hmm.
tune with our needs. We're just in tune with, I don't know, I guess our brains or impulses that tell us, a donut sounds really good. I'm going to go have a
Hmm.
donut. Or,
Uh-huh.
I know they sell a special stash of treats for staff. I'm going to go and have that and devour it in 5 minutes and then feel like a pig afterwards. So, how do we stop ourselves? I mean, now we're talking about binge eating, but
Hmm.
I want to want to help myself and my readers reframe all of these impulses so that we're eating intuitively and really honoring our
Ah,
body.
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful question. Okay, there is a book called Mindful Eating by, and I'm probably going to mispronounce her name, Jan Chosen Bays, and I'll shoot it to you so you can put it in show notes if you want.
Okay.
Um, and in that book, she beautifully lays out the different hungers that we have: taste hunger and we have mouth hunger. We also have body hunger and cellular hunger, and that's where the intuitive eating piece comes in. And then there's also the emotional hunger
Right.
of there's some kind of stress or boredom or void or something that we're wanting to use this food to fill. And in those moments, it's having another way to fill that void. Maybe it's a cup of tea. Maybe it's I'm going to go stretch or go get a breath of fresh air. One of the things I encourage clients to do is, and I have a worksheet grid to do this, and I don't know if you've got ways to get worksheets to folks. If do, I'll get it to you so everybody can have it. This is something where you look at what tend to be my triggers, stress, boredom. I'm using those two because those are pretty common, but other things. And then you start listing out everything that fills that void in your life. If you're angry, what are all the things that calm you down? If you're exhausted, what are all the things that give you energy? And not exhausted in the sense of hunger, but exhausted like, you've had kids screaming at you all day and you're ready to, yeah. So when you list those out, you always keep that with you. And in fact, you might even put it on your pantry or something. I made this list for myself probably 15 or more years ago, and I still keep it with me all the time. Because in that moment, when you're craving that donut, it's very difficult to go, number one, it's hard enough to realize, am I craving this because I'm stressed or bored or because I feel deprived? It may be that somebody brings in a treat and you're like, oh, this may be the last time that I get this treat. I better have this now or I'm never going to get it again.
Right.
So deprivation may be, fear of deprivation may be another trigger. So you list out all the things that fill that. And then when you hit that trigger, you recognize it and you go, I don't know what else is going to fill this, but I don't have to remember. I have my cheat sheet. And you pull it out and you go, all right, I need to phone a friend. I need to take a deep breath. I need to call my massage therapist and schedule a massage, whatever it might be. Does that make sense?
Right. So you have a list of alternatives so that food isn't your go-to.
Right.
Because
that way food can be food.
Right. Well, and you had mentioned in the beginning that food is just food. And that's another hurdle right there because food is magical to a lot of us. I mean, people have been going on social media showing pictures of delicious food, and that turns food into something like a celebrity, and it's hard to not think of food as something that we crave and enjoy, I don't know. It's hard to imagine that I would just see, like you said, chocolate is going to be just as sexy as carrots or vice versa.
Yeah. And it's not that things like that don't have a special place in the sense of, how it affects our neurotransmitters and things like that. I mean, honestly, chocolate's going to affect your dopamine receptors different than carrots does. But there's this whole aura around it that gets taken away. It's not that you don't enjoy chocolate. It's not that you don't enjoy a donut, but it's no longer magical.
So then thinking of things like Halloween celebrations, vacations, things like that, where those are triggers emotionally for a lot of us. But then we also have, like, I can imagine right now the aura around that turkey. How do we eat intuitively during that time?
That is actually, I love this question because intuitive eating actually amps up those times in a great way.
Okay.
Because imagine yourself, because I'm sure you've never done this before based on what you talked about. That was completely sarcastic because I know I've done it. How many times I'll use me, how many times did I go to a Thanksgiving meal or that Christmas potluck that I told you about? And because this diet was telling me what I can or can't have, there's all this guilt. But imagine going there free. There's no guilt. But the flip of it, you're not coming home bloated from having overeaten. So let's say you go on vacation and you overdo it because, woohoo, I've been on this diet, but now, chains are off because I'm on vacation, and you come back feeling horrible because you've overdone it. Intuitive eating keeps you from going to that overdone it point because you're listening to your body, and your body's not going to want you to overdo it. The slow and savor helps you get the most enjoyment out of that meal. Because if you've been practicing all year long in your lunch times with your teachers, this is the most amazing leftover pizza. I don't know, whatever it is that you're having, and you're talking about how great it is. when you go to these special occasions, you're already going to be in the habit of savoring every bite. You mentioned the Halloween candy. There's two ways to handle Halloween candy. One is the way that we do often, and that is mindless. It's there, so we grab another piece, open it up, and pop it in our mouth, and we don't even notice we're having it. But intuitive eating says, okay, what are my absolute favorite pieces? What are the ones that I really, really want? Because the purpose of that kind of food is to get the most pleasure you can out of it. So don't let yourself settle. Like you were talking about going and getting the best cheese or whatever. Mm-hmm. Same thing with this. It's like, if you're going to have the Halloween candy, go for your absolute favorites, get a ton of pleasure out of it, savor every bite of it, and you will notice the point of satisfaction that you go, oh, I'm satisfied. And next time I want a piece, I can have it, whether that's an hour from now or 2 days from now. You're not having it just because it's there.
And I think the reason why Thanksgiving seems so magical is because it's the only time we make all of that stuff. You know, the turkey and all the sides. And I wonder if we didn't limit it to just that, if fewer of us would feel compelled to gorge ourselves during Thanksgiving because we've allowed ourselves to have that anytime we want.
Oh, I agree. I love stuffing, but there was a year that a restaurant made this stuffing that we loved, and I bought a lot of it between Thanksgiving and Christmas. I was like, I am so sick of this stuffing. Right. I never want to see it. It's like, I'm glad I'm not going to have it again until next Thanksgiving, because I had a little bit of it every day. It lost that aura.
So that just clicked for me then. If I allow myself to eat the things that I truly love, then, if I'm at that staff potluck, it's just going to seem like something that I eat all the time, that I've allowed myself to eat all the time. So maybe I'll feel less compelled to binge and pile my plate.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely. And it doesn't mean that there aren't still going to be those times that, how do I describe this, Kim? It's not that there's not going to be those times that you don't have something that's truly special. Like, let's say I go to Italy on a vacation.
Right.
And I go to this place and I'm not at a 3. I'm not truly physically hungry, but they bring out this homemade tiramisu. And it's somebody's, homemade tiramisu in Italy. Exactly. It's like, okay, hello. Am I going to go ahead and have that as part of the experience? Absolutely. Intuitive eating is not yet another set of rules. It's guidelines for a way of life. So it doesn't, and what you were just describing with the staff, catered meal, it's not that you have to have those things every day to no longer have the magic around them and no longer overeat them when they have it. But once you've gotten in that mindset of, consistently, I allow myself to have whatever it is I really want. So if I really wanted this tomorrow, I could go call up the caterer and say, you got any leftovers you can bring my way? I mean, it loses all of that, but you're still going to have those times that are a special celebration, somebody's 90th birthday party. And okay, you're going to have a piece of birthday cake, even if you're not really wanting it.
So this kind of goes against a lot of those, boot camps that I see on Instagram or these fitness programs, and they have these shakes that you take. So based on your experience, why isn't it a good idea for me to join one of those if my ultimate goal is long-term weight loss? Because I can't imagine that they work forever.
No, they don't work forever. And with those boot camp kind of things, with the set shakes and stuff, it really depends on how, and I'm going to stick on the shakes for a second. It really depends on how the shakes are used. So if the fitness program is focused on the fitness and the shakes are there strictly as, if you hit a 3 and you don't have any other food around, have a shake instead of making yourself go hungry, that's actually a good use of that type of shake. Usually they kind of meal replacement.
But usually they completely replace a meal. Like, you don't eat breakfast and lunch. Exactly. But that's not sustainable, is it?
No, that is not sustainable. No, it's not. So that's what I'm saying. If it's rare, in fact, so rare I've never seen it, but I'm not going to say it's not out there, that somebody has a fitness program where, okay, you use this in a pinch, great. But that's not your lifestyle. Your lifestyle has got to be, what can you do long term? Because otherwise you're going to do the same thing we've talked about. You're going to go on this program, you're going to lose all this weight, and then as soon as you get back to school, August, September, October, the weight's going to all be back on plus some.
It sounds though like if I got really good at intuitive eating, eating slowly, stopping when I'm satisfied, I'm going to have a calorie deficit naturally, and maybe I could lose weight.
Oh, you will. You will. It's that if you personally, going back into our, counseling session we were having earlier, if you personally have recently been on a very restricted diet, your body may call for more food and you may put a little bit of weight on initially. Mm-hmm. Or if you've been on a very restricted diet and you feel as though you've got to have that pan of brownies every night until you get through, the craving of that, you'll put on a little bit of weight. However, if you're not in either one of those cases, if you just are in I've been on again, off again diets, I haven't been on one recently, you've got a little bit of a diet mentality, you'll probably, I'm not going to say for sure, but you'd probably do what actually most people do. And that is, okay, you maintain for a few weeks and then your body and your brain start trusting each other and you start trusting yourself and you start getting really good at hearing those hunger and fullness cues. And it's like, oh, I just lost a half a pound and didn't even think about it. Oh, I just lost another pound and didn't even think about it.
And you reduce the stress, which actually puts on weight.
Yes, absolutely.
Huh. That just kind of made that clicked in my head all of a sudden right there.
Everybody excuse our silence. We're having a moment here.
I know. Exactly. The light bulb, literally. And, something that I'm actually worried about, though, because this is my summer, and I tend to go off the wagon in the summer in terms of eating. Like, I'll ramp up my exercise, but you can't, losing weight is 80% diet. From what I've heard, you can't just exercise yourself thin. So How do I keep myself from binging or grazing on unhealthy food when there's so much food available? Like, how do I start this summer to adopt an intuitive eating lifestyle?
Okay. Pick a letter. Two ways to handle it. Pick a letter to start with. This is just personal for you. From what you've told me, it sounds like if you were going to pick a letter first, I would say pick the H and say, anytime you're out and about and there's all this food that you could possibly graze on, ask yourself, am I truly physically hungry? If you are, go for it. If you're not, okay, I can have it when I am truly physically hungry. That would probably be a good place for you personally to start. For everybody who's listening, you know yourselves best. If you want to start with a different, maybe all that food being around, you don't automatically go for if you're not hungry, but you're at a pool party and so end up, okay, I'm physically hungry, I'm starting to eat, but now I'm overdoing it because of boredom or overdoing it because of something else. So, pick a letter to start with, or it may be easier for you to do all four letters HWSS at once. But an absolute key with this is journal, because if you are you a journaler?
I do. I journal on my Mac, on my computer.
Okay, awesome. Perfect. So this would be something for you to journal in there about what you discover about yourself, what you discover about your relationship with food. Because one of the beauties with intuitive eating is there's really no failure. If you learn from it, so let's say you go to a pool party and you eat because you're bored and you get home and you're like, oh, that was gross. I feel horrible because I ate so much or whatever. Okay, well, why did I overdo it? What could I do different next time? What did I learn about how I feel when I eat that way? It's just learning.
Right. And then later on you can look back and see how far you've come.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, summer is definitely a great time for you to amp up your self-care. And that is something, just kind of one more thought on that is sometimes we are eating mindlessly and doing those things because we don't feel cherished and taken care of and nourished in our soul. And taking time, especially right now during the summer, to take care of you, whatever that means. Manicures, pedicures, going for a stroll in the park, going and petting puppies. I don't know, whatever it is that
Right.
puts in your emotional tank. Load up on that during the summer, and you may notice that those cravings are not there as much.
That's a good point because you're distracting yourself. A lot of times we do binge eat or graze because we're bored and lonely and unhappy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. And if you're taking care of you, then you no longer have that sense of, oh, am I worth taking care of? Yes, you are. You are very worth taking care of.
So this is a lot that we talked about today, but thank
Woo,
you
yes.
because it's a lot to think about. And I know that it's hard to break out of the diet culture, but in the long
Mm-hmm.
run, if we're really going to enjoy food and enjoy our bodies and enjoy life, we can't. That's one thing that we shouldn't be obsessing about. We should be enjoying food for what it is. Now, do you have anything that can kind of help us after we listen to this, with our journey to get started? Do you have any resources for us?
Yes. On my website, the homepage of my website, I have a free ebook, and it is Overcoming the Guilt and Shame of Diets and Getting Fit the Sane Way.
The
So
sane
I'm
way. Oh,
the
nice.
sane way,
Yeah.
yes, because if somebody wants to go do boot camp, go for it, but you don't necessarily have to. So I encourage people to get that and start working through that.
And I'm going to put the link to that in the show notes so that it's really, especially if, for those of you that are driving right now, I don't want you to go on
Yes,
that website. So when you stop, you can go ahead and click on that and you can get that free ebook, which can help, and I'm going to look at this too because I want to take this summer to start switching over many, many years of this diet mentality. I can't remember the last time I wasn't dieting. And so I think this is a great time because we're not worried about the students. We can worry about ourselves for once.
that is fabulous.
Well, thank you so much, Sherry. And I just want to let you guys know that we actually have another episode next week coming out. And during that episode, we're going to be talking about exercise. Exercise as movement for health reasons, not just for, weight loss. And I can't wait to dive into that topic with you, Sherry.
Yay! It's going to be good.
Well, thank you so much. And I will talk to you next week.
Okay.
Yay, that was cool.